Terrarian in the Dungeon, Chapter 92, Fan Fiction, by Azazyel. Sorry, last 2 free chapters of this story. Subscribe to https://www.patreon.com/Azazyel for 15 more chapters. Please like and subscribe to this YouTube channel for listening and patreon.com/Azazyel to read all of his stories. The world of Gekai itself shuddered as though a core part of it was awoken from its slumber, and such a shivering primal realization was more than correct as not even the very blighting cancer upon the world in the dungeon itself dared to scream and rage against the foul divinity that seemingly awoken across the world. Seshet and Hestia alike, both of whom were working within Seshet and Jake's shop to keep busy, shuddered as the alien feeling tickled their divine senses that were leashed within their mortal forms. What the hell was that? Seshet muttered as Belle came tearing out of the back armed with her sword in hand with her eyes widely searching around. It felt like someone was walking over our grave. Belle, did you feel that as well? Hestia spoke and looked to her precious little bunny, who hurriedly nodded with a frown. Belle visibly chewed over her thoughts before speaking. It felt like innocence was lost in a violent upheaval, and I lost something I didn't know I had. Belle said unsurely, and the goddesses shared a look at the mortal's point of view over the feeling. Then Hestia said flatly. It was certainly Jake's fault. Seshet raised a hand and was about to slam it on her table to give a strong and brutal denial. But then her hand slowly fell as she sighed and groused. With his track record, it is far more likely that Jake did something. I just hope he is still fine. Seshet finished, and then Hestia and Belle consoled her and reminded her that she could still feel Jake's fauna. So it's not like he was lost to her in any way. Across the city, deep within the depths of Orario, a figure was cloaked, but its form still sent an indescribable pressure across the room that its form sat within atop a simple stone throne. The wizened face with its eyes closed hummed in thought before its dry voice broke the silence. Something has changed. The dungeon itself gave a deathly scream. Something is changing within its depths. Something even further and more drastic than before with the aberrant and mutated monsters coming to be. Aurena's voice spoke out tiredly. From the shadows of the dark room, came a dark figure walking out of the shadows, and its hands were covered in a plate mail, but it couldn't disguise the bare bones that appeared within sight. Even more creepily was the fact that the cloaked figure had no facial features to be seen, as the cloaks would seem to merely be a pool of darkness with nothing to be seen or made out. That very thin figure then spoke aloud. Things are always changing, Lord Aurenas. But such violent and widespread change so quickly is a portent of great change, that will not be good for Orario as a whole. The strongest god nodded slowly as he saw beyond his temple that he rested with to lull the dungeon into a slumber so it wouldn't continue to grow to devour Gekai. As he saw beyond Orario itself, he located the epicenter of the divinity that pulsed that sent the dungeon into such a fretful rage and silence. As Aurenas' eyes finally landed on the source, he couldn't help a small snort from escaping his mouth at what he saw. That boy. He has caused more issues, Fells. Aurenas said with steel in his voice as he looked at his single familia member. Find out what Jake Barris has done. See what nonsense he has gotten up to and keep an eye on him. He is a chaotic element with his ability to topple the city of Orario should he choose. Aurenas said with finality in his voice as his head dipped lower to obscure his face under his thick hooded cloak so he could return to his dozing slumber, he would force upon the dungeon. Fells then silently dipped their head in a show of understanding and acceptance before they merged back into the shadows and disappeared from the room. In contrast to Aurenas, who rested in the depths of the Tower of Babel, at the tallest point of Orario, in the peak suit was a wonder of a woman clad in naught but plucked rose petals that coated her bed surface. Ah! You have done so well, my Audra. Freya said breathily as she watched with all due care as her beloved fell unconscious and was surrounded by the summons that moved him to safety and some relative comfort. Her every waking moment that wasn't spent fearing Althea coming to finish her familia out of some kind of spiteful boredom was done watching over her Audra Jake Barris and there were no words to be spoken at his great feat slaying the very world's innocence and bringing about cruel reality unbowed by the sheltering of the gods. Freya shivered in utter delight as already, she could feel it down to her very domains. So much death was coming, so much magic on a massive scale was in the future. And most importantly, the brightest of heroes would be shining to life and dying with a beautiful splutter as their fires went out in the coming strife coming to this world. Jake, whatever can I do to earn the same passionate gaze you looked upon that monster you so slew? Freya whispered shivering at the thought of her beloved giving her such attention. She adored how he was immune to her charm, she loved his soul, which was both beautiful and terrifying. Maybe I can sneak into his bed in the middle of the night. He is not the type to press down into bed and forget after all. She muttered before pouting as she realized Jake had 3 lovers always in his bed in Belle, Sechet, and that cow beastkin pet Beatrice he adopted out of some fetishistic desire for her stupidly large breasts. Ha! Maybe he will accept a threesome with me and Heath Velvet, or maybe even Rio to break his reluctance to lay with me. They are both virgins after all. Freya muttered as she pondered how to earn Jake's affection through the most primal and effective manner in draining his balls to the point he would become addicted to her touch and love. She was well aware her colored past of pleasure was biting her in her perfectly pert heart-shaped behind, despite the hypocrisy.